Story 1. Lack of communication. It's like silently letting the engine of your car run out of oil. Everything might look fine on the outside, but inside, things are breaking down fast. Without talking things out, misunderstandings pile up until there is just too much to untangle. Story 2. Lack of communication or refusal of one or both people to communicate. Infidelity, affairs, or cheating, disrespect and dishonesty, abuse, mental, emotional, or physical, belittling and insulting, negligence to meet needs, ignorance of how important needs must be fulfilled, pride and ego, refusal to grow to be a better person, lacking willingness to solve conflicts and prevent it from happening in the future. Story 3. Stopping small acts of kindness. Little things like helping with a small chore or doing a nice thing. Life can be challenging. Being a bit of light in the darkness for your partner goes a long way. Story 4. When someone doesn't acknowledge what they do or how they act after discussing with said person, they continue to do the things or actions you specifically told them bother you, and they continue to do them. I call it deaf syndrome because I've seen it so much and experienced it myself. All of you will know it by its other name: disrespect. Story 5. Prioritizing another person. It's been a month and a half. We've almost broken up more times than I can count, and things just feel weird and wrong now. Barely any time to talk to me, but they sure can talk to that other person all day long. Story 6. In many relationships, you'll reach a point where you both joke so much that the jokes become hurtful. You or your partner may think it's funny when, in reality, it isn't. It turns from innocent jabs to harmful insults, and you may not even realize it. This will affect the relationship, slowly turning into a type of bullying, so be sure to communicate when a line has been crossed. Story 7. From what I've seen time and time again, a lack of appreciation is significant. All the other things that eventually doom relationships always seem to start with a lack of appreciation. Talk to happily married older people. Hear how they talk about their partner. There is always a lot of warmth and appreciation in their remarks about their spouse. Story 8. The loss of trust is a killer, usually in the form of a flirtation or affair, but it could be about money or another issue. Once trust has eroded, it takes a long time to regain, and along the way, there will be many times where one partner distrusts and questions the other. It can be overcome, but it takes patience and dedication and a willingness to be patient with being distrusted due to your or their actions. Story 9. Contempt. A psychologist did a study of couples, and the number one indicator of a failing relationship was any indication of contempt, for example, rolling your eyes at the other person. Story 10. Lack of treating your partner with care. So often, we get home from work and are exhausted from being nice and patient with clients, coworkers, bosses, systems, and more. The end result is we have nothing left to give to our family and especially our partners. This leads us to be short with them, stonewall them, be snarky, and more. Our partners are arguably the most important people in our lives, and yet we treat them as second class or take them for granted. Sure, one romantic dinner can reignite some sparks, but it can't fix 1,000 bad interactions. Instead, if we make sure that we treat our partners with care and love, going home to them becomes exciting. They can become a source of energy instead of a dumping ground for sarcastic comments. Story 11. Arrogance. Assuming you know better about everything and not listening to your partner. Not laughing. Laugh long and laugh often. When that goes away, you are done. Not talking things out. Eventually, it will blow up and be much worse. Story 12. Well, posts link to talking animal story. Story 13. When someone thinks they are above or out of their partner's league, the key to happiness is two people thinking that they both pulled above their weight. Story 14. When you start asking yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Sometimes that's okay. You can't die on every hill in pursuit of argumentative victory, and sometimes it's sensible to just ease up and enjoy peace. Sometimes it's actually healthy for you to check yourself. But when you get there, you're at an assessment stage, and that slope can be slippery because your ego is likely going to slide the rest of the way down. Story 15. Anything that pulls the focus off of unity and commitment, such as lying or lack of communication, should be addressed. If it doesn't further your efforts to become closer, it's the devil's idle hands. Story 16. You pursue her. She wants to be desired. You talk to her to convince her that you're the guy who should provide for her and protect her, would take a bullet for her. You give her the commitment, but she is never satisfied or content, as hypergamy is undefeated. And what do you get in return after all that? From a man's point of view, whatever it is that prevents her from giving you, that is why the relationship won't work. Story 17. Note that relationships do not have to be romantic. I have not had that yet. Relationships can be family, friends, and so on, and what kills them is a lack of open, clear communication, where one or both of the parties involved fails to open up to the other for whatever reason. Story 18. Having a third party. Lack of communication. Constant arguing without resolving the issue. Not being transparent. Unfaithful. Making assumptions instead of asking. Honestly, I'd say more, but these are just the main ones. Story 19. Lack of communication. I have never been the best at communicating my feelings and needs due to my own traumas and insecurities, but my partner is patient and understanding and allows me the space to communicate properly, for which I am truly grateful, as he is the person I plan to marry. But the unwillingness to compromise or grow as well. I could have easily lost this relationship if I wasn't willing to make the positive changes I need to keep it going. Story 20. Refusing to seek or accept help when they struggle with mental illness. When you have a spouse who struggles with depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, etc., and they don't get the proper help they need, typically the last thing that anyone thinks about is you. You are constantly worried about taking care of your spouse and all of the things they can't, don't, or forget to do, and you always come last. It seriously takes a toll on your own personal mental health. If they are willing to accept help and work with you on their problems, that's a big green flag, though. Story 21. Lack of basic problem-solving skills, self-victimization with lack of accountability, incompatible sex drives, financial ignorance, lack of boundaries with pets, lack of compromise, ignoring home duties and unequal duty share, etc. There are many things that can kill a relationship, but most of these issues are solvable with communication, being empathetic with your partner, and tackling arising issues in a calm and logical manner. Being patient is hard, but it is worth it as long as you and your partner come to understand each other. You must have solid self-respect, boundaries, and a touch of fairness in how you carry yourself as well. Also, remind yourself that being firm isn't being cruel when your partner doesn't return the same courtesy to you. Story 22. Seeing two people live in a created illusion in their heads. One is chasing after a man, begging him to do the most basic necessities, such as help around the house or be a husband. The other turns around, watches her do everything, raises kids, and works full-time, just so she eventually wakes up and realizes she's permanently stuck in a marriage that neither of them wanted. Because they live in this illusion where hell is real, divorce is a big sin, and they worry about what people will say. Their kids suffered growing up, watching them constantly fight year after year, month after month. Silent treatments prolonged weeks, then increased to months. The children were unable to socialize out of fear of finding their mother abused by their father. And it never ends. It goes on year after year. Now, the kids are grown with families, and nothing changes except the mother begging for a divorce. Not directly to him, but crying to her now adult children. It's a cycle that never ends. Illusions warp your kids into saving your relationship, causing more than just a relationship to suffer. It radiates to other generations as mental trauma. Story 23. Small degrees of differences. In the beginning, you are walking side by side, and the small differences are okay. Over time, as you continue to walk forward, those small degrees of differences put you further and further apart until you can't even hear each other. Story 24. A lack of trust. Trust is an important foundation of any relationship. When two partners do not trust each other, or even if just one of them is always wary, it could cause a lot of arguments or even full-blown fights. It will be hard to enjoy any life moments, whether together or apart, when one or both persons are worried that the other is cheating on them. Doubts can cause a relationship to crumble. Story 25. Sometimes people just lose attraction over time for some reason. I would say that's the worst one because there's nothing you can really do about it. Story 26. Taking your partner for granted. asking them to change things for your benefit while being completely against the idea of changing anything about yourself, obsessing over love languages and demanding that they meet yours but ignoring their love languages at the same time, temporarily moving across the country with the kids under false pretenses and then forcing them to move with you, then telling them they are free to move back and take the kids knowing that isn't feasible for them. Story 27. The other person can't commit and he or she just can't tell the truth. You see, once the trust is gone, one can go crazy trying to mend both hearts. Trust yourself, mend yourself. Love yourself to heal. Love is many things. Pride is one of the best tools to heal. Trust yourself to make the correct decision, and your happiness will be the best vengeance. Story 28. Communication problems can sometimes be daunting, causing you to second-guess your partner or be too guarded to open up about realistic issues. Even when they are the sweetest and calmest person, some things are really not that big of a deal, and if you have a supportive partner, it makes all the difference. Story 29. Absence of communication, or, worse yet, a promise of communication that goes unfulfilled either willingly or because one or both parties just aren't equipped with the ability to properly explain what they're feeling or thinking. This is an exponential problem since nothing gets resolved but also leads to misunderstandings and further conflicts that could easily be explained away before even becoming problems. I heard somewhere about a study that determined the number one indicator of a successful relationship is compatible methods of conflict resolution, and honestly, that's so true. Story 30. The Gottman Institute lists what they call the 4 horsemen: criticism, contempt, stonewalling, and defensiveness. These behaviors creeping into a relationship spell doom for it. I would add this as well. When the ratio of good to bad experiences falls below 5-to-1, meaning more than one bad experience for every 5 positive experiences, then the relationship is unlikely to last. Story 31. I can name 2 things off the top of my head, one of them being a complete attention seeker, saying they will harm themselves just because you break up with them or trying to hurt you or actually managing to. Story 32. Lack of communication, unaddressed resentment and underlying issues, inflexibility or inadaptability, romantic or platonic, family or coworkers. These are deadly on their own but rarely show up alone. Story 33. Telling friends about fights and arguments. They only remember the bad stuff and will have no problem reminding you. Obviously, tell people if it's abuse or something dangerous. Story 34. When you know that something is bothering one of you, avoiding the conversation just because you fear it might make things worse is not the right approach. Instead, addressing it openly can bring relief to both of you, rather than letting unspoken concerns create distance. Story 35. Cheating always ruins a relationship. No matter if you forgive them and give them more chances, it still isn't the same knowing that when you're not around, they want someone else and not just you. Story 36. Farting during sex. Done laughing, acting suspiciously, or obviously hiding things from your partner. No, you're not cheating on them, but it's still the same as lying. Story 37. Lack of excitement or intriguing moments. You don't know how many relationships I've seen end up in the dumpster or start cheating because their significant other became boring or wasn't as fun anymore. Story 38. You can love them all you want, but you have to like them. Take everything away and ask yourself, if I just met this person, would I enjoy having them around a lot? If it's not a pretty hard yes, then good luck. Don't get me wrong. I agree with people who say trust and communication are the key ingredients in any relationship. But it doesn't matter how much sugar and milk you use if you don't really enjoy ice cream. Story 39. Personal problems. If at least one person in the couple has a personal problem with anything like a lot of stress or depression, then this person will not have the time or the mindset to be in a relationship. Story 40. Transactional intimacy. What I mean is that once sex, for instance, is used as a form of trade, such as cleaning the whole flat and I'll give you a blowjob, this inevitably leads to a bad place, and it's very easy to ruin things from there. Story 41. Not dedicating time and effort into making it work. Basically, everyday routines take over, partners become living partners instead of life lovers, and they get annoyed.